Hey, everybody. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday before Christmas. I'm happy to be here with you all. Just going to give people a moment to get on. I am in my chilly and sunny home in Boulder, Colorado. And things are weird. Things are weird around here. Probably nobody else has that. Excuse me, going on. But yeah, I am, the holidays are an interesting time. And a lot of times this time of year, I do a 5 days of creation thing where we like dive into creating, like whoever, would like to create rather than do the alternative holiday stuff. Hey, Melissa. Yeah, so I do that. I've been doing it every year actually for like 7 years, but I'm not doing it this year because I'm actually not going to be around not going to be around very much between Christmas and New Year's. That's my week where I normally do that. So got something else planned that's really fun and free and about being weird, being a wonderful weirdo, actually. But I just, I woke up like really kind of funky and that happens, it happens to a lot of us and it happens on certain days and it happens more at certain times of year for some people and all of that. This is a time where there's a lot of social things and a lot of family and a lot of just whatever. And then you're like aware of everybody else's weirdness and it's a whole thing, So we it's like the volume on what could trigger weirdness gets turned way up this time of year. And we're all kind of like, and then on top of that, there's all the crazy stuff going on in the world and, politically and with governments and economies and bodies. And it makes for an interesting moment in our journey here on planet Earth. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about is this thing about when you don't fit, because, how many of you watching feel like you fit in the world? I definitely do not. And I didn't even realize that was the case for a long time. Like I was like, oh, I'm normal, and then I realized it was definitely not normal. But there's so many messages from everywhere all the time, like telling us what we need to be, how we need to be, who we need to be to fit. And it's really, literally never. Yeah. And it's really, we're bombarded. We're really bombarded, especially these days with, so many messages out there about how you need to fit in and what you need to do to be right, good, perfect, and correct in the world. And it's not achievable, and what so many of us do is we bend, fold, staple, and mutilate ourselves so that we can fit into the world. And it's not an achievable target. And it slips in these very insidious ways where I know for me, like, I don't even notice that I'm doing it, where I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm trying to be normal. I'm trying to fit in. That's not going to happen. And so what else is possible? And how do we handle that? How do we live in the world? How do we move in the world? How do we navigate in the world when the world around us is just so committed to something that doesn't make sense? And so let's look at this. And like, for me as a kid, I didn't even know this was going on when I was a kid, but growing up, I had a lot of hindsight about this now that I know what I know about all of this. But I growing up, I was always like trying to figure out how things worked in the world, like trying to figure out how I was supposed to be with other people in relationships, trying to figure out like just how to navigate things in a correct way, because I didn't know, like, we're not born with that information, you know. We come into these bodies as infinite beings, and we, you know, carry all this like awareness, like energetic awareness and awareness of the world with us, like awareness of energy, you know. And like when I say the world, I mean like the energy of things, not the what people are saying, because what people are saying does not match the energy most of the time. So all these messages about how you need to be, who you need to be, how you need to do things. And you can look at all areas of life, like how you need to be in relationships, or how you need to be in business, or with money, or with your body, or whatever. It's like, this is how you do it. You know, this is how you do bodies on planet Earth right now. Well, that's a big conversation in the world, you know. There's a lot of room for you know, being different, really. But there isn't a lot of room, like energetically there is. It's like your body can't be different from everybody else's body. Your body has to be like everybody else's body, and you have to treat it exactly like everybody else's body. And if you don't, sorry, you can't participate in society, basically, is where we're getting to. And so that's, you know, that's one example, you know. Or like, this is how business is done. This, and this. Like, you figure it out, and then you do it. You know, you decide what you want, you commit to it, you figure out how you're going to get it, and you go do it. You know, well, that doesn't work for a lot of us. You know, so we're sort of like, for me, I know I just spent so much time, like, always sort of using the brilliance of my energetic awareness, trying to figure out what was going on. Like, how do I talk to people? You know, how do I like be as exuberant as I am, and have as much energy as I have, and be as like super into my body as I am, you know, and like be in a world where I'm not really supposed to have a body, you know? It's like everybody around us lives neck up, you know. And I've always been like, oh my God, this body is so amazing, you know. And it's like, how do you be that in the world when there's nobody around you who is being that, who is inviting you to that, who is curious about you, you know? And so, and this is just an example of, you know, me sharing my, you know, journey with all of it. But there's a lot of different ways that it shows up. And, you know, so if we look at relationships, because that's where a lot of us are around a lot more people right now, than, you know, because of the holidays and stuff. It's like, okay, so how do you relate to people when people relate based on judgment? Because that's the primary mode of modus operandus in the world, is judgment. And so how do you relate to people from judgment when you, as somebody who is a weirdo, somebody who is an energetic being, somebody who is what I would call an X-Men, you don't know how to do that. So what are X-Men? X-Men is a specialty area in access consciousness, and X-Men are, well, we could say a lot of things, but X-Men are basically, one way to look at it is the evolution of the species. Another way to look at it is people who, that's the sort of like generative perspective, and a degenerative perspective on X-Men is they're people that function differently. They have tendencies, or even a full-blown like diagnosis of ADD, ADHD, OCD, or autism, which describes, you know, a lot of what I'm talking about here. Like, and I don't have a diagnosis, and I wouldn't probably be diagnosed as any of those things, but I have a lot of like my brain functions in a very autistic way. I have a lot of ADD, ADHD, OCD tendencies. So the way I relate to the world is different. And I didn't have any idea about this until I found Access Consciousness and started exploring the X-Men conversation. And I, as I did, it was like, wow, you know, I started to make sense to myself in a way that I hadn't before. And it was like, wow, this is actually like, finally, I get to actually have a sense of how I move in the world, how I be in the world that I didn't have before. And one of the primary things about X-Men is that they don't know how to judge. You don't inherently know how to function from judgment, and you live in a world where everything is about judgment. And so you have to learn it. You have to figure it out. And the other thing is that you're so dynamically aware. You perceive judgment everywhere. You perceive it very dynamically, but it doesn't make any sense to you. So how people relate with each other, well, they relate with each other based on judgment. You're good, I like you, I can hang out with you. You're bad, I don't like you, I can't hang out with you, And that's a very basic, but people also use judgment to control each other. So it's like, you're a bad person if you don't fill in the blank. There's a lot of that going on right now. Anybody notice, right? You're a bad person if you don't take care of the whole rest of the world with a very personal medical choice, and if you don't choose what everybody else is choosing and what you're supposed to choose, it doesn't matter about your body, you're a bad person, And so judgment is this thing. And then people are like, oh my God, I'm a bad person. I don't want to be a bad person. That's the last thing I want to be. I can't be a bad person. I don't want to, okay, well, I guess I just don't really know what I'm doing, and I don't really know what I'm talking about, and I have no idea like what to do and how to make decisions and how to move does that seem familiar? Right? And it's exhausting because it's not you. And you may not, like, for me, that internal conversation about that particular topic, it's not, I don't have that because I'm very clear. I know what's true for me and my body, but it does show up with other things in these subtler ways, so you may have clarity on, that whole world. But you may, or you may not, but then there's like, okay, well, how do I create money? Okay, well, money is a thing that is made up, and a bunch of people like got together a long time ago, and they agreed that there would be this thing called money, and they just like made it, and they decided to do it, and then everybody agreed with it, but it's really just like a piece of paper or a number in a computer. So I don't really get it. I don't really know how to do it, so it's like, oh my God, like there's just so much craziness around all of these things, because a lot of how the world is set up, it doesn't make sense, and it's completely based on judgment. And if you don't know how to judge, it's just something that you're not wired for. You really can't do, but you perceive it dynamically, you think it's yours, and you kind of move in the world like it's like being an alien on planet Earth, trying to be a human, but you're not, And so what do we do with that? Well, the only thing that you can do, and to me, this is the best news ever of all, is to be you. And now that sounds very sort of like, Pollyanna-ish or whatever, but let me just address that a little bit more. Is like to really get to know yourself, what's true for you. Because what's true for you will not be the narrative of the rest of the world. It just won't. If you function really differently from the rest of the world, what's true for you, you may have never seen it before in the world. So here we are, highly energetically aware, seeing how the world works, how the world functions, and like trying to get like a sample. Does anybody have a sample of how I function? But that you're never going to find it, because you are a unique being. You're a totally unique being. You are a wonderful weirdo in the world. And so, as that, it's like, if you look to others, how they function in relationships with their bodies, with business, with money, with, as parents, with the earth, how they like in every area of life and in every aspect. If you look to those, if you look to people who, like for the reference point of what's true for you, you're never going to find it, because they are not you. And not only are they not you and you're not them, which of course, right? But most people are not functioning from being them either, so you can't even really get a sense of like, how do I get a sense of how to be me in the world when nobody else is fucking being it, so there's a lot going on there, and then, like I said in the beginning, it's like you add the holidays and you add all these things, and it's like, boy, there is a lot of there's just a lot to manage there, so one of the things that really helps with this is just to know that it's going on, is to know, okay, I'm actually functioning totally differently. And I'm trying to fit myself into these different people and places and things. And, and it's so wild because, I facilitate this stuff. I've been doing this for a long time. And I've changed a lot, and I've had a lot more awareness of me, and, function more from being me than probably most people in the world. And yet, I'm just like, wow, there are still so many things that I become aware of every single day where I'm like, wow, that's not me, and that's not me, and that's not me being me, and that's not me being me. And it's like, wow, this is a bit of a rabbit hole. And, but it's not a rabbit hole with no end, nor is there really a destination, but it's more that as you explore and as you move, getting into greater allowance of you. So getting out of judgment of you, not trying to figure yourself out anymore, but actually having a sense of what is true. And having allowance for that, meaning you don't judge it, you don't try to change it. You have a vulnerability with you. So you're willing to be present with yourself. You're willing to be grateful for who you are. You're willing to not judge who you are, all those things. Then you start to begin to cultivate this totally different reality. That is your reality, and nobody else may participate in it. Nobody else may see it. Nobody else may understand it. And this is why a lot of people don't go there, because they think they're not going to have anybody in their life if they do. But the funny thing is we can't, our relationships are so dissatisfying when you try to do them from the rules and regulations of this reality and everybody else's world, because that's never going to work, And so it's okay, so that's never going to work. So you got to do something totally different if you want to have a different reality with all of this. And the only thing, and again, the greatest thing, is that the only real sort of way to create something totally different that actually works for you, where you're thriving and you're happy. And yeah, we all have weirdness every day. Well, maybe not every day, but I think the more aware you become, the more you're like, wow, this world is really crazy, and that happens to me. That does happen to me every day. So I'll speak for myself. There's weirdness every day at this moment. But the more I reference me and be in the question of, okay, who am I actually? What do I desire actually? What do I desire that I didn't know I desired? That's a question I've been asking a lot lately. And what's actually true for me? And what if I really lived that? What if I really lived that? And it's not like you get there and you're like, rainbows and unicorns, it's this journey, it's this ever unfolding, expanding journey, adventure of discovering what's true for you. And as you do, then you can begin to create these energetic realities that are totally beyond this reality. And they don't have to reference this reality. You don't have to reference. And what do I mean by this reality? It's sort of like the culture of the world, you don't have to you don't have to reference that. Like you get to make up your own rules and regulations. Hopefully they're not rules and regulations, because those are pretty boring to people like us. But you get to really like create your own world, your own universe, your own sense of communion with the earth, your own sense of movement in the world, like what's true for you. There's a lot of magic there. There's a lot of miraculousness there. And yet we really, like, many of us just sort of, if you use these tools of access consciousness and you play with it, it's like a lot of times that really only, it really only, it shows up in like glimpses when we're really willing to, or when we're, feeling so weird that we're like, fuck it, I got to do this, so it's, it's again, it's just this ever unfolding journey, but it's so rewarding, and there's so much magic there, and there's so much miraculousness there. And again, it's pragmatic, and there's a lot of tools. There's a lot of tools that you can use in these moments. And I feel like I need to wind this down, so I'm gonna do that. But because this could be, this is a very lengthy conversation that can keep going and going and going in so many different places. We could talk about business, we could talk about bodies, we could talk about relationships, we could talk about the earth, we could talk about the universe and miracles and magic, and so this is like, access consciousness basically, and the X-Men conversation. But what I am doing starting in 2 days is a free. It's so funny. I'm like hilarious with numbers. I thought it was a 5-day thing, but it's 6 days because I never can do math right. So I was like, December 20th through the 25th. That's 5 days. No, it's 6. It's 6 days, in case anybody needed to know that. So it's 6 days. But anyway, I'm doing a free, it's called a celebration of difference. And it's about being the wonderful weirdo that you truly be in the world. It's very easy. I have a Telegram chat that is open to everybody, heathernichols.com/Telegram. And I'm going to be doing live videos, like a live stream like this, but in Telegram, which I love Telegram, every day. Not at a set time, but I'll give you all a warning in the group when I know I'm going to go live. And for, 5, 10 minutes, 15, whatever, like, I don't know how long they'll be, not super long, but I want to give tools. I want to have dive into a lot of these conversations more, for really, how do we be in the world as the wonderful weirdos that we are? We are a gift to a different possibility. And, if you haven't noticed, I think we all have, it'd be hard to not at this point. The world requires something very, very different right now. We are that, guys. We are that. Like, it's up to us to create something different. And so this is a big part of how we do that. And it's exciting. It's strange. It's totally uncharted territory. It's exciting. There's a lot available here, and it's a lot of possibility. That's the cool thing about what's going on in the world right now. There's a lot of possibility, and we are that possibility. And the earth and the world so require that, And in order for us to have a different reality in a different world, we have to create our own reality and our own world that has nothing to do with the government and the economy and, the limitation of bodies and illness and disease and death and all that crap. Like, that's not my reality. It's probably not yours either. Judgment, control, that's not my reality. I bet the effect of it if I decide that it's relevant to me, but I can also completely outcreate it by creating something totally different. And it's not by fighting it. It's not about fighting it. It's about actually just creating something different in my own world that seeps out into the world and becomes our world as we all do that together. And we each we're like this unique, beautiful symphony in the symphony of possibilities, in the creation of something so different. Yes, thank you, Marcia. So come and play in the Telegram chat. It's free. It's open to everybody. We start on December 20th, so 2 days from now. If you're watching this later, I don't know. It'll probably be posted somewhere. A link to all the videos will probably be posted somewhere here or there or whatever. I don't know. Because I know this is going up on YouTube. So we'll have like a little playlist somewhere. But yeah, what is actually possible that we don't think is possible, that if we would allow the possibilities, and if we would also acknowledge the magic that we be, the difference that we be, the wonderful weirdos that we be as a gift to the future, would actualize something totally different. And it is happening. It is totally happening all the time. How does it get better than that? What else is possible? Thank you all. Thank you for you. If you're still here at the end of this video, or even if you watched a moment of it, thank you for you. We are so required right now in ways that we can't even imagine. And it's time. It's our time. It's now is the space, and the space is now. And let's go. So I'll see you in Telegram, heathernichols.com/Telegram. And let's go. Let's be the wonderful weirdos that we truly be. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.